Hello, what recording method fit my workflow and resources? Beginner YouTube content creation process. So that is a question you have to ask yourself and decide which tools you want to use to do your recording. For instance, it doesn't have to be just pick one, but pick the one that is easy for you to use if you are going to do daily recording for a year, for instance, that we are planning on doing. And for us, I choose screen recording to be my default way of recording, and that's what I'm doing right now, being in front of my laptop and using OBS to record my screen. And OBS is to do the screen recording. If that's what you use, might want to choose the software you use to do that as well. And I'm using OBS to do my recording. Or you can choose to use a camera to do your recording as well. And if so, with a camera you need a tripod for it, and you can find one at Walmart, not expensive to begin with, or you can find one at Best Buy. I purchased from both places already. So one that I purchased it from Walmart lasts me for some years before it broke down, and I used it in the garden to do recording in the garden as well. While I purchased another one from Best Buy, I think, and I said the one that I'm using now, I purchased it from Walmart as well, and it's larger than the one that I purchased some years ago, and I'm using it. So you can find which one is within your budget that you like to work with. And currently I'm thinking about buying a smaller one that I can take with me when I'm leaving home, it can fit in my bag. I have a bag here that I can just put my things in, and when I'm leaving home to record, if I where I'm going, I might record there. Or you can use your cell phone, and I don't use cell phone to do recording, but if recording, because a lot of people at all time have their phone with them, it's not me. So if the phone is the way, I don't even know how to record with my phone. That's something I had to learn. Yes, I can record some videos there, but to actually record a content with my phone, that's something I had to learn. So because I just don't use phone that much other than for talking, which I don't do much of either. So that is the way I view phone. But if that is the phone, your way to record, then finding a tripod that can hold the phone for you could just be, something that you might consider as well. And just go from there. But as for me, is the screen recording the basic one for me that is easy for me to do if I'm going to do daily videos. And then my backup plan is my camera, just in case I'm recording a video that does not require sharing my screen. Then I can just put my camera on a tripod in my office or so, and just do my recording on it as well. But using the screen recording process allows me to have a PowerPoint presentation. And since we pick swing trading for our topic going into 2026 to be our daily video content, having a PowerPoint like this, if you are going to use a screen, you are going to share your screen, having a PowerPoint could be a good way to have the topic you are going to talk about during the day written down. That way you can read and explain, and you don't have to memorize anything. And the way I like to use it as well is, as I have an aha moment while I'm recording, I can just write it down as well, and pretty much things that I think is worth sharing, I can just have it down and I'll just keep that slide on my PowerPoint presentation as well. And as I'm at the end of the video, I can just scroll through for my audience to read through it if they are interested. So that is something that I'll just keep adding to it. Does that make sense? And I'll just have the PowerPoint presentation here. Who knows, depending on how it is aligned, by the end of the year, if you have a good one, you can just turn it into a digital product to sell, like a checklist from point B to from point A to point Z, how to do, whatever that topic you talk about. You can have that checklist. If you want to make it a free download or a paid product, it could just be one of your first digital product that will come out of your daily video content production. It's just an idea that just came to me as I'm talking with you right now, that this PowerPoint presentation, at the end, I have multiple slides that I didn't do anything with. Excuse me. It could well be a good, checklist to turn into a digital product. But and I've been doing pretty much the same things with our planning process for going into next year as well, and I can just go through it. So because I'm choosing screen recording is the easiest one for me, it makes it easy now to have to memorize anything, because again, I don't like to memorize anything, and as I'm having ideas, I can just write them down, and it makes it easy. If I miss a point, you'll be able to read it in the presentation as well. And if there is something that I'm working on that I will, it's like a B-roll type things, I'll just add it to it so that when I get to that topic, I have things that I already added to the presentation that I will use. Does that make sense? As I was working on those, I know that I'm going to approach this in one of the daily videos that we are recording to explain the process, the content process planning. As I was working on those, I was taking some screenshot to add it to my PowerPoint presentation. That way, I have example here to share with you at the same time. So that is how I found screen recording useful for me to use. And OBS is a free open source software to record your screen. You just have to set it up and use it, and the only way I use it now is just to record my screen, and that is my bread and butter again, way of recording content. If I'm going to record on a daily basis, that is my go-to. And right now I'm recording on a computer. The computer that I'm using, I purchased it recently at Best Buy. Is around $1,500. But the reason why I went with that is because the one that I used last year didn't have a lot of memory on it, and I struggle screen recording, and that is how I know that I'm not going to edit video either, because I tried to edit video this year to try to learn to edit video, and I like it, but quickly I noticed that I have lagging issue with it because of the memory available on the computer was low, and I couldn't edit video, but I wanted to keep recording. Therefore, I stopped editing video and focus on videos that I can record without editing, and that is what so I didn't make an excuse that my computer was not good, therefore I'm not going to record video, but I continued the process because I set the goal to record video daily, on a daily basis this year. Even though in summertime, spring and summer, I didn't do it, I continued anyway using that computer, and I just decided not to edit video, and that's what I did, and that just allowed me to focus on creating video without editing, and I'm going to continue that process into 2026. So something came out of that experience, and I know that I'm going to purchase another computer for, for to be able to handle the process and edit with it as well. Even though I'm not going to edit video that are going to be my daily videos, I'm prepared for it. And this computer has 32 gigabytes, 1 TB memory, like 32 gigabyte memory RAM, and then we have 1 TB for the storage space. So, and it's touch screen, but having 32 gigabyte and 1 T is what make it 1500. Yesterday my husband was looking online for what would be around for Black Friday, so that our kids, their computers, are not working well, to buy them computers. And he found at Best Buy 16 gigabytes with 1 T, I think, for 320 or something like that. And I said, that's good. So and that will work for video screen recording as well. For $300 you can buy a computer that you can record your screen if you are not going to edit. Although, to change my computer, I did a little search on my other computer and found that I think they said that 4 gigabytes, I think 8 gigabytes and 4 gigabytes, they are now well good for videos. 16 gigabytes and up is good. So that 16 gigabytes is a good one. And at the same time, I asked my husband to buy me a smaller computer that is not too expensive, that I can have to take on the go, because again, I'm doing things on computers, not on my phone. Therefore, those are tools that, knowing how you are going to record your videos, you might want to know tools that you'll have on hand. And even though I purchased an expensive one, I purchased one that is not too pricey, and I purchased the 1500 one is from Best Buy. This one is from Walmart for what, 268 or so. I don't remember the gigabytes, but I told my husband 8 gigabytes is fine for the RAM, and the memory, I don't know what that is, but I think it's less than what he was finding online for the kids. And we bought it at Walmart, and it just allows me that when I go to work, I can log into a thing called Sweet platform to trade during my lunchtime, and I can work on my business as well. And I think it could just well be a computer that I could do recording when I'm on the go, but at least I use it, to work in the background for the content. And last time that my kids went to catechism, and I went to the university with one of them to work there while we are waiting for my husband and the other kids. I work on the business. I work on our bookkeeping, our business bookkeeping, and I just took it with my external drive, which is 1 TB. Pull information from my main computer to it and transfer it here and just do my work. So pretty much, having those things, knowing how you are going to do your recording, the methods that you are going to use will help you be prepared for it. If there is the camera, then you know that almost daily you want to make sure it's fully charged, so that when you are going to do your recording, you'll find it available for it as well. And you might want to think about, just in case you run out of battery while you are recording, or when you want to record, you don't have a lot of battery to do your recording. You don't want that to stop you. You might want to look at a cord, that will be long enough that you will be able to plug it and still record. And I think this is what, 6 feet or so, or 5 feet, I'm not entirely sure, but you can find 10 feet as well, and have things like that when you can at your disposition, because the camera won't come with long cord like that. That way, if you are standing up, you can still plug the cord in and charge it while you are recording. Those things you want to be prepared for backup plan, so that you don't let those things stop you from doing a recording, a recording. But you just try to minimize those things, those challenges that you might come across. And when you come across one, ask yourself, how can you solve that problem, instead of automatically say, okay, today is you are not going to record because of this. But see what backup plan do you have. And if you didn't have one, then you can take note of that and see how you are going to solve that and work towards solving that, so that next time you have that challenge again, you have a solution for it. And that's how you'll have, you'll create those backup plan for each scenario, so that your content production process is not interrupted at any step of that process for one reason or the other. And those are my two backup plans. So because I don't use phone, even though phone is easy to take along, I prefer to have my computer and my camera. And one thing I noticed is that going to kids and leaving the house, for me, for instance, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we went to one of the kids' activity, and it was shorter than the time frame was shorter than what we anticipated. And my husband decided that from there they'll go to catechism. So that means pretty much I'm going to stay with the other kid that was the activity was related to, with there for about 2 hours doing nothing. Thankfully, I have my bag with me, and I have product mix for our business that I print out, that I wanted to read. I have that document with me that I end up reading, but I just learned from that experience that I should not be leaving home for anywhere without my computer, so that when I have to stay somewhere for an hour doing nothing, I have backup plan. I might have something like that. It's pretty much like a book. I print multiples out, but I have a small, multiple bundles of it, something I can read. I have a laptop in my bag that I can work on the business, and I can have either my camera or my picture camera with me if I want to take pictures of a background for thumbnails, although I'm not taking more of those these days because I'm thinking about just my picture with the background that comes with it. I can just use that for daily video thumbnails. Makes it easy for me to try to remove those backgrounds, or taking this camera with a small tripod. So pretty much when I'm leaving home, what do I want to have with me, so that if I'm going to stay somewhere idle time, I can use that time productively, and being productive. But if that's the phone for you, that is your basic recording, your standard, your bread and butter recording, then you are set. Having a tripod in your bag, and you are free. So, and you can just do your recording anywhere you are. But those are things if you have a good lighting around, and that is one way as well. But figure it out now, so that when you start the new year, you have all it takes to start the race. So, and that is what we are going to share in this for today's video. For during our content process, let's take 30 minutes or so to see all the pieces we need to do our daily recording. When I'm using my computer, instead of being close to the keyboard, I'm using a temporary keyboard, but I only have this year. So for the number of years that I've been creating content, I didn't have those things as external to the laptop that I'm using. But this year, those are pieces. So just know that you don't need all of that to start. Just start with what you have, and little by little you can add those accessories to it, those options to it. That way, you just make your work easier and more convenient and more productive as well. And I can do this recording again, something that we purchased for laptops, and I'm pretty much, doing my things without being too close to the computer and using the keyboard keyboard, if that didn't make sense. But yeah, let's take few minutes every day to walk through those processes, those steps to get ready. You don't wait until 2026 to start to get ready, but you start now. And even if possible, you can even start recording that daily videos. You can start now as well. That way you will see all the challenges that you will go through, you will encounter, and that will allow you to start working through them before 2026 happen. And again, I work daily, therefore I want to see if I get to record content daily and publish it daily, and that is the goal of this exercise. And you don't want to wait to retire before you start your YouTube channel. If you want to have a YouTube channel, you don't want to lose your job before you start a YouTube channel. You have a job now, thank God. If you like to, start a YouTube channel to share your knowledge with others, start now and work to it. If starting a YouTube channel is something you want to do when you retire, start it now, so that little by little you build your audience, you build your channel, you work to it to, is a process, a learning process as well, so that by the time you retire, you just continue to it. It's not when you figure out what you will do when you retire, but you start it now. And for us, for instance, when I came in Iowa, I didn't have a job. It took me a while to find a job, and I went to job interviews, and I went to look for a job, and I was told that they were not hiring because they're firing people, those at the bank. I went to business school, and when I came here, I was working on another master's degree. I started in Missouri, and then I came in Iowa, and it was during the recession of 2008. I couldn't find a job, and one day I was like crying on the couch because I was newly married, and my husband would come home from work and would just spend time with his roommate playing game that they both discovered, and they were just playing game, planting corn and harvesting corn, and I'll be in the living room by myself. And one day I was crying for all those things that I was going through, and not having the job, looking for a job, and not spending time with my husband. And I just said, wait a minute, that is enough. I got up with my resume, buy food. I went to we living in an apartment and sharing a room with one of his roommates that they work together at work as well. And I just went and deposit my resume at a gas station. From there, I found a fast food place and at Wendy's, and I deposit my resume there as well. Pretty much what I can do by food. And when I went to that fast food place, there were some lovely ladies there, and I think one of them could be a student at a college here as well. They were hiring, so they interviewed me on the spot that same day, and they asked me with all my degrees, why do I want to work at a fast food place? And I said, well, I married a Caucasian, and I like to learn how to cook American food. So, and that was good enough for them, and they hired me, and I worked there for a while. While I was working there, I applied at Walmart. I worked part-time at Walmart. I worked at a tax place as well. That's where I gained my tax experience that I used to record video, because most of my videos watch on my YouTube channel are business task videos. But that is where my work experience came from. I work for a franchisee, and every spring I will work with them. And that's something I came across one around fall, and at the same time I called them and they start classes that month. And I was pregnant with my first child, and I went there and pretty much worked with them for some years before I left and create my own tax business to continue filing tax for people. And later decided that I just prefer not to bring stranger to my house, but continue filing my business taxes, because I have businesses, filing our own business taxes to keep learning and improving my business tax filing knowledge, and share that online with new business owners that want to file their own taxes. Because I noticed that even at work, co-workers, supervisors like to ask me tax questions to file their own taxes, and I feel like I like doing that, telling people, sharing my knowledge with them if they can do it by themselves. And that's something I discovered about myself as well later, that I prefer to tell people how they can file it themselves than me doing it for them. Even if doing it for them, I will charge more for it. I just prefer to tell them how they can do it themselves. So that is something I know after the fact, after having the Liberman Consulting L.L.C business. So I don't file tax for people. I'm my own clients, because I have business that I've had to file for, and I'll use that to be the content that I share online to share with others how they can file that same type of a business tax return. But it came from there. So part time I work with that tax company. I work at Walmart, and later on I add substitute teaching to it as well, while I was still working at a fast food place. So pretty much multiple part-time jobs that I can do around my husband's schedule, so that either one of us is at all time at home with the kid while the other was working. And I didn't bring much home income wise, and we live on credit card to buy groceries or so, and use the incomes that we are generating to pay the bills. So my husband to pay the bills, and it was mostly his incomes, as mine was not much, but he contribute a little bit as well. So very quickly, from zero credit card debt, I racked some $1,000 credit card debts, and my husband got scammed, and he ended up having way more credit card debt on his credit card as well. But I kept that fast food job, because I worked with a great team and they were fun to work with. And when they decided to close that location and to move people to another location further away, was the time that I decided to leave them. And even the owner of those two locations asked one of the managers to ask me why I don't want to come to their other location. And I said that the reason I stayed with them for that long was because they were the first people to hire me when I came here and I was looking for a job, and all the places that I checked, no one was willing to hire me. So that's why I stay with them, even though I have Walmart that I was making more with. I have my substitute teaching that I have that license, and I was substituting at schools around where we live. And every spring I will do the task. I will go to the task place. I kept that job because, again, they were the first one to hire me, and they were great people to work with. So, but since they were moving further away from where we live, it just didn't justify the reason to continue working there. And that was when I end up that job and just focus on the other three until I found the job related to my education that I'm working now. And then little by little, I stopped the others as well. In fact, the Walmart one was the first one to go. because there in some way I had to stop working. But yeah, the others over time I let them go since I'm full-time, employee here. But even when I start working full-time, during my off day, I would, like, if I take a day off, I'll go sub teach. But little by little I stopped that as well. But just to share with you that, you know it, when you have things like that, you wanted to have a backup plan. At least that's the way I feel it. Through that recession, when I didn't have a job and I was newly married, we start our family and living on one income with credit card debt, my husband tuition loan and car loan. He didn't have car loan back then. He was leasing a car. So so he'll have some car payment. So we just were not making enough. And very quickly, we are using credit card as a backup plan for groceries, and paying the minimum monthly a little bit above it. It'll just keep adding up when you keep using that credit card to buy things. And going through that, just put things in perspective. One thing I learned is I should not think that going to school and finding a job is it. Because again, it is now your company. You can get fired at any moment. I couldn't find a job back then. And by the time I found a job, I know from that day one that it's not my business. I can get fired. Therefore, I need to have a backup plan. And that's how my business, evolved as well. I created a soap to sew and sell on Etsy, and I still have that business. And now I'm updating Liberman.com online store to move our products there. But yeah, and the idea behind it is little by little, with my full-time job, work on my side business to have it to generate income for us, so that I do not put all my trust in my employer. And that is a lot to put on an employer, to be the one to put food on your table. So I prefer to have a backup plan. So if you have a job, that's great. Have a backup plan, because if you are not working for yourself, there is no guarantee there. I work for the government indirectly, and with every government shutdown, there is a question there to be asked. And thankfully, I'm not affected. But the first time that happened some years ago while I was working, I said to my husband, "Oh, working for the government is not like a job proof either, like I thought." Because some people can get affected by government shutdown. And then at that point, I asked my husband, can we live on one income? That's something we have been working on. Because when we were renting and we wanted to buy a house, very quickly we found out that we couldn't. We got rejected by 2 or 3 banks, because our debt income ratio was pretty much, we have too much debt for the income we were bringing in. Until I found this full-time job. And I said that experience taught me that we need to pay off our debts. Even though I was conscious about it, not having debts into I got into the marriage, but living another state for another one, I left my job. I used to braid hair while I was going to school in St. Louis, Missouri. And that's how I pay my rent and pay my tuition. But leaving that state for another state, I left that job, that self-employment job, and I didn't have any here. I had to pretty much build everything again, and that's how I did it. But having that challenge of getting pre-approved to buy a house, I know that once I found out of my full-time job, we are going to work to pay off those debts, and that's what we did. So I'll ask my husband, even though we are paying a little bit more than the minimum required, I'll ask my husband, can we live on one income? He will say no. And at one point I asked why, and he said because of all those investments we are doing, because I was investing in stocks before I got married, and we continued that. But he didn't know about stocks, so he didn't really like it. And that his first thing, the first thing he will try to point out that is why we couldn't live on one income. And I said, okay, if we are not investing in stock, can we live on one income? And yes, in some way we could, once we have two income. And I say, okay, so let's live on one income, the highest income that will pay the 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 mortgage and all our expenses, and use the other income to pay the minimum on all the debts, and then put the remaining income to one of the debts, to take it one at a time out. And that's what we did. And we pay credit card, tuition, car loan. And then we say, okay, let's live on a small income of the two and use the highest one to pay the mortgage. And while we are doing that, we are trading stocks as well with our allowances. If we were able to save a little by little to get to 100 or so, we'll put it in our own Roth IRA and trade stocks there. That is how we continue to trade stocks on the side, buying penny stocks and some good stocks, and keep, learning to trade without touching our main paycheck, but focusing on debt. And by the time we ran into those first government shutdown that I encountered since I started working with, the government indirectly, because I'm not really employed by the government, but for them, I started asking myself, wait a minute here. If working for the government is now job proof, can we make it on one income if one of us lost our job temporarily? And by that time, the answer was yes. Even though we are still paying the mortgage, but we pay most of the credit card off, and it just keep fueling our energy to work toward that goal, so that we can keep our expenses low to be able to fit it within an income. And we'll say, okay, so if we do not have income, how can we make it? We want our income to be, our expenses to be slow, so that even if we had to find a job at a fast food place, if that's 800 a month income, we can live within that. Does that make sense? That is what was pushing us to keep paying down those debts, because those are things that are a part of your monthly basic expenses. Those minimum debt pay amount due every month. And once you don't have those, you don't have a daycare, the expenses can be low. So, and we'll review our budget and say, okay, so if we do not have a job, maybe who does not have a job don't need allowances, since that person will be at home. Maybe these things if that's donation to the church, maybe we might want to cut it down. What are the things we can cut down on our expenses? And if we do that, how much the basic budget is for the month, to see how much do we need to cover that expenses. And that was an exercise sometimes he and I would do, to see if we can make it on one income, or if either one of us lost our job temporarily. And now we are in a situation when we have a government shutdown again, and some people, if not many, are affected by that. And hopefully that solution will be solved for them. But those things just pushes me to say that we need to have backup plans and not rely on our employers to provide for our families or to put bread on our table. So if you have a job, if you can have those different ways you can make money outside of your job. It could be toward investing in the stock market, it could be a side business, it could be having your own YouTube channel. So, and why I wanted to do a daily posting is because a few years ago I got overwhelmed at work. I just felt like I'm working longer and longer hours every day. Even though I'm a salaried, I don't get paid overtime. And it's not just one time thing, it's just becoming a more often type of things. And I became overwhelmed with that, and having some challenges with my supervisors, my new supervisors, that felt like that, in my opinion, view a mistake like a mistake. When I view a mistake like a learning opportunity to do better, to learn from and do better, and it just creates some friction between us that just make it worse. That even though I'm putting a lot of work into my work, it's now being recognized, and I really didn't feel well for some months, and it's just making me emotional talking about it right now. But the way I got through that is saying to myself that, wait a minute, I'm grateful to have a job. If I'm putting that much hours into my work, I should put equally a number of hours into my business as well. It should not be a reason for me to even now doing my business work because my job is taking that hours away from me. So from that moment, I came out of it, and I started working even more on my business, and that's how consistent recording and publishing came into play earlier this year, and I'm continuing into 2026, because if I'm working those many hours for my job, I will work equally like that for my business. It's not necessarily about the number of hours, but every day as well, I need to work for my business as well. And in some way, it solved that overwhelm problem that I'm having. Even though it does not make sense, adding more work to work shouldn't solve overwhelm problem. It should make it worse. But I think my mentality change, and that temporary anxiety that I went through got resolved in some way. I think maybe some other factor could have played a role as well, but I think that mentality helped pushing forward as well. And it was, and now I just feel like if working longer hours is what it takes to get my work done, I'm going to do it because it's paying the bill. I'm grateful for it. It is okay. But I'm going to continue working on my business, and if because I'm not niche down, therefore I might have to work harder to create enough content on the platform for my audience to be able to find what they are looking for in it. Therefore, I keep pushing toward that direction as well. I'm just sharing my experience with you if that can inspire you, and that's why I'm bringing it forward. For instance, my work schedule is from 7:30 to 4, but easily I work past 4. And yesterday I worked past 6 p.m. I continue working because there was an issue that I want to solve, and I just kept working to get it done. And when I was done with it, I, moved into here, and I just work on our pretty much our YouTube. I don't even know what I work on yesterday. It could be this one that I work on to just keep 10 p.m. That'll be this one, to create some, pretty much what I'm saying, this process that we are working on for swing trading for 2026. I'm working on that same process for the YouTube video that I'm recording as well. And I just work on it, trying to have answers like that sentence, have a little answer for each question, and just having that short description for it. And I pretty much use AI I will write an answer and I will ask AI to refine my answer that I put to answer that question, and then I will read it, and then I will copy and paste what AI said if it's better than what I put down, or I'll ask it to refine tune it again and things like that. And I just got those first 7 down by 10 p.m. and then I went to bed and woke up this morning at 3 something to go shower and wash the tub, showered, and got ready to start doing this recording. So, and just keep pushing. And yesterday I was telling my husband that I record afternoon today afternoon off from work, but I'm not going to take it because we are going to start closing the month today, and there is no way I'm going to take the afternoon off. So I'm going to work through it. And I have done that in the past where my supervisor will say to take another day off or to cancel that off day request, but I'm not going to cancel anything. I'm just going to, just work through it, and I'm fine with it because again, I'm grateful to have a job. I like what I'm doing and it is okay. And it's even hard for me to take off day. If I have an appointment in the morning, I might take a day off, but in general, I don't take a day off. I found that taking afternoon off works well for me because I don't like to come back and have a mountain of emails to sort through. In my line of work, when you are off, unless something is urgent, when you come back, you will work on it. So if it's urgent, somebody can take over for you, but otherwise, when you come back, you are going to work on it. So taking 1 day off, meaning when you come back, you are going to do 2 days off, 2 days of work. So for me, I just find like taking hours to go through all those emails that came while I was off. I just prefer to take afternoon off, and Friday afternoon off works well for me because again, Monday I may not have a lot of emails that came through for those 4 hours that I took off. And in my line of work with my employer, you can lose your off days, and that's something I'm okay with. And I found that one way I can use it is just Fridays. Take off days off on Fridays. I have afternoon off unless I have something going on in the morning. I don't like to take morning off and come back to work in the afternoon unless I have to. Otherwise, I just take the whole day off. But I just feel like I don't want to take off days because I don't know if I'll come back. So if I take too many off days, I may not come back to work. I might come back with a resignation or something. That's the feeling. Therefore, I just prefer to take afternoon off. It works well for me. Or if, taking a day off, I know that I will have a lot of emails to go through, and it's just taking too much time to solve those issues that came through the email to even get to the daily work. So therefore, that's what worked for me. But those are things I'm sharing it with you to just put things in perspective, that it's okay if you like your job to be grateful for it. We should be grateful for it. And maybe, it might help us not being too depressed about it, but, find another option, to work. Some years ago, I was I was not in a good place with my work, even though that's the same job that I'm in now. And I did some job interview. I went to a job interview with the idea of living there for another one. And I was just, I was just at the office working, and I just felt bad that day. And then the Holy Spirit, that's my belief, Holy Spirit just gave me an idea, asked me, Ninette, list down what you like about your job. And then I just listed down the way it's multitask. I can have multiple tasks to work on. No one is really breathing behind me, supervising what I'm doing. I can just get my work done. Pretty much I list a lot of things down from the current job, from the previous job, and things like that, because I have self-employment job before. And I list everything down, and then I just got another voice that came and said, Ninette, you cannot find a job that met all those criteria. And then I just got another idea, unless you create it yourself. And that was my aha moment. From that point on, I started viewing my job through a new lens. I started to appreciate it more, knowing that it is not my job the problem. I am the problem. So what I like about my previous work experience, my previous job, and what I like about this one, I pulled that, and when I created my business, I make sure I have that there. Does that make sense? So I know that I have an escape. So if my job is lacking something, my business will have it. And one of the things that I like is cheating. And that is something that I was thinking about, maybe going into a PhD to be able to teach at the college level. It was on my to-do list, because when I stopped teaching, I love it so much, even though it was supervising the kids. But there are some instances that I had to teach. I had to help them do their homework, and I like it. I love it, and I know that it was a part of my personality, sharing my knowledge. Since I like to learn, I like to share as well. And I found that YouTube channel, creating videos, solved that problem for me. Even though I have blogs, I write, and I have blogged for years, I didn't notice it until I started recording videos and publishing it, that I noticed it, that, oh, it met that teaching need that I have, that is now fulfilled by my current job. My YouTube channel fulfilled that need. It gave me a knowledge to teach my knowledge. And that is, a part of my business as well. So some people might say that my business is not niche down. No, I'm multitask that person, and that's something I like about my job. I want to make sure my business has that as well. It's not everything in my business that I like, but I have multiple things that I can work in that balance that. So that is, again, something you have to think about. I'm putting those things in perspective for you. And if being broad in my business mean I'll grow slower, I'm okay with it. But that just means I need to work harder to compensate. So, but again, just a little rambling here to just share that little story with you, and I'm sure you'll have your own as well. You can reflect on yours and see if having a YouTube channel on the side is something you are thinking about, and start today and just work through it, getting ready for 2026. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you very much for all your comments. And thank you for subscribing to our channel. I'm Afiavi Liberman, Chorus of Liberman Consulting L.L.C YouTube channel, and ninasoap.com, our blog. On our channel and on our blog, we share different ways to save money and different ways to make money to reach your financial independence, where you do not depend on an employer to provide for your family. And having a YouTube channel is one way. Over time, you can create a source of income out of it, if not multiple sources of income out of it. And this video is brought to you by our online store, liberlabel.com. We have a tote bag listed there. If you are looking for a handbag or a gift for a family member or yourself or a friend, please check it out, please. Thank you so much for your time.